Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the 107K podcast. I'm Lexi Linderman.
I'm Andrew Deal.
And I'm Noah Aberg.
We've got a commitment-packed podcast, I guess. This week, last week, right before we started filming, David Tarawali, offensive tackle, committed to Penn State, and then since then, Penn State has gotten two running back commits as well in their 2027 class. We're also going to touch a little bit more, like we did last week, on that quarterback situation in the 2027 class that has kind of really started to unfold. But we'll start it off with Tarawali. Dale, you did a film review on him this week. Just kind of what did you see from him and what can Penn State fans kind of expect from this new offensive tackle?
Yeah, despite him being, I don't like calling him undersized because he is 6'5.5", but he is only 260 pounds. And now that might cause some concerns, but it's likely he's going to put on weight. And from his film, it looks like he's already a pretty polished blocker. He has success both run blocking and pass blocking. He has power in the run blocking game. There are a lot of times in his film, I think it was only 2.5 minutes, and most of it was runs to the outside, and he was just driving through his defender. And that happened a lot, and he was putting them into the ground, getting multiple pancakes. And I think him having that or showing that type of power at 260 pounds is a good sign that that power is going to translate when he gets to 300 pounds, even more, if that. And I think I mentioned it in my film review as well that it it's similar to Cool the second, where he was undersized at going into Iowa State and is still kind of undersized, and he's starting to bulk up at Penn State, and that type of development could be the same for Tarawale. Um, and overall, he's really strong technique, and I think that will help him be able to be a step above other tackles and be able to just focus on gaining that weight and being able to be big enough to fend off Big Ten defensive lines.
Yeah, I think a big reason you see that kind of three-star tag is maybe because of that size. He has a lot of really good Power Four offers on the table. So it's not like he's some kind of, like low three-star that like no one's really interested in. And like Penn State was the only really good school that offered him. It was just kind of like, I think it's just the size. Like, and I do think like if you're an offensive lineman, like 6'5.5" is like really good. That's a really good height. Like you want to be super tall. It's just that weight, like you gotta be 300 pounds. And it's like obviously he still has his senior year of high school. He's probably not gonna play his freshman year at Penn State. Like I think like a lot of people in this 2027 class. And so it's like he has that time to put that weight on, but if he already has that technique, and obviously Ryan Clanton, I'm sure, will work with him, to get that technique even better. But I just think it's that size when you're really looking at him that you're kind of, if you're a Penn State fan, you're hoping to kind of see him bulk up. And like, I do think that will happen. That's just how offensive linemen like work. Like, you're always trying to add weight. Like, I just think that that's really important, especially as you're starting, if you want to be a starter in the Big Ten, like you've got to be huge. And you also have to keep that quickness. Like, there's just so much that goes into it. But you can check out more about Deal's film review on pxcollegian.com under the football tab. But we'll transition into the running back. So Penn State got two running back commits. One committed right before 30-ish minutes before we started filming this. I don't Chuck Wuma Odo was that? Yeah, I think that's it. I don't want to mispronounce his first name. He committed today. He's a three-star, I believe, from New Jersey. And then Aiden Gibson also committed on Tuesday. Four-star from South Carolina. Penn State beat out Clemson, South Carolina, some pretty good Southern schools to get Gibson on board. I think that's a testament to Savon Huggins to start. But I'll just kind of hand it off to you guys. Like, what do you guys think these running back commits kind of say about Penn State? Like, what are you kind of looking forward to with these running back commits?
Yeah, I mean, Penn State's obviously had a re recent success with running backs. Obviously, Nick Singleton and Tatron Allen this year for Saquon, Miles Sanders, all of those people, and then even just going into this upcoming season, Carson Hansen, James Peoples, and now these commits are going to start ushering in that new era of running backs for Penn State. So even though the running back coach has continued to flip between different names over the past several years, this is just I just continuing to cement on that running back status that Penn State has, no matter who's kind of doing it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Gibson, I'd say, is still underranked based on the how the 247 guys talked about him after he committed. It seems like he's right up there at the top. Now he's compositely a little bit lower. I think 247 has him as number 12, and I think he's lower than that in the composite rankings. But I expect him to continue to rise up the way they're talking about him as like this top five maybe running back in the class. And then you have Odo, who's uh, he missed a little bit of last season, if I remember correctly, and but his what would have been his sophomore year, I believe he had 1,400 yards or something like that, and was running like crazy in New Jersey. And I think getting that duo continues to show that Penn State wants multiple running backs, even though it's a completely new coaching staff. It's a new running back coach. They like this almost running back by committee type of system, and getting these two running backs kind of shows that.
Yeah, you mentioned the rankings for Gibson. 247 has him at 12, the number 12 running back in the nation, and Composite has him at 22. So there's a 10 spot difference between what the nation says and what 247 says. So obviously, 247 is really high on this guy. I remember I tweeted that he's the number 22 running back in the country, and everyone in my prize was like, no, he's number 12. And I'm like, guys, I use 247 Sports Composite. Like, but it definitely seems like Gibson is a good get for Penn State, especially when you look at Savon Huggins, like this is a guy who came from Boston College. He hasn't really had that recruiting success, I guess you could say, but it is Boston College. You know, you're not really getting 4 or 5 star running backs to Boston College. Like that just doesn't really happen. But I think that getting Aiden Gibson is really big just for Savon Huggins because then you can kind of be like, look, like I got this guy on board. It's like, come join him, come join me. And it's just really good for him moving forward to kind of get that first, like, kind of like not kind of blue chip recruit under his belt, you know, at Penn State. It's a lot easier to recruit at Penn State than it is at Boston College, but really good for Huggins that he was able to get Gibson on board, especially South Carolina native, like Clemson, South Carolina are right in the area. Those were definitely good schools. He was going up against former Penn State running backs coach Sam Drayton to try to get this guy on board, and obviously Huggins won that out. So I think really good get for Penn State. I think he'll probably, I could see him end up being, you know, one of the better players from Penn State's 2027 class. I also think you missed out on Keemon Spell, which obviously, like, no hurt there because then you end up getting Aiden Gibson. Like, obviously, Spell is going to be incredibly good, and Penn State would have loved to have him on board, but I also don't think, you know, when you get Gibson, you're kind of like, okay, like, we can kind of like take a deep breath now. Like, we still have some talent in that at that position in this class. And then you look at Odo. I just saw a tweet. He also runs track at in New Jersey and he ran a 10.86 in the 100 meters at 220 pounds. So he's got some speed to him, like for sure, especially at that weight. Like that's really impressive. And so I think he and Gibson were definitely going to be, I don't know if they'll take another running back in this class, but I definitely think that's, you know, they're looking toward the future there. And I also think, like you said, Deal, I think Matt Campbell's always liked to kind of have that 1-2 punch at running back as well, just like Penn State has kind of always liked to have. And I do think that's going to continue to be a trend going forward. I think we'll definitely see it this year with Carson Hansen, James Peoples, even Quentin Martin Jr. working in there as well. And I think that's just something we're going to continue to see down the line. I also think like Gibson, I don't think Gibson is expecting to play right away. Maybe he will because Quentin Martin Jr. is only a redshirt sophomore. You know, James Peoples, I believe, is just a junior. So they've still got some years to them. I would expect them to both still be here next year as well. So it's just gonna be interesting to see how that running back room continues to shape out. But I think Savon Huggins is definitely getting a really good start here, especially getting Gibson and Odo on board. And he's the, you know, he's the guy who's been recruiting, getting those commits this week. I mean, because we talk about Tarawali was last week, and since then it's just been those two running backs. So Savon Huggins is definitely putting in the work and definitely, you know, reaping the benefits of that. But I want to transition a little bit to another commitment that happened today. Peter Bork committed to Virginia Tech, which I think we kind of like, I think a lot of people saw coming in the recent days and week. It kind of seemed like, and it was a two-horse race between Georgia and Virginia Tech. Penn State was obviously in that for a while. There was, you know, a lot that happened. And On3 guy made a RPM for Bork to go to Penn State like 2 days ago, and everyone was like, okay, like what's going on? And then he was like, oh, that was like old info. Like that's my bad, and I'm sorry. And so then obviously, but then they're like, oh, Penn State talked to him when he threw. 2 days ago, and like now they're back in the race, and then it's like, well, actually, no, they're not. And it's just like there was just so much going on. But obviously, he ends up at Virginia Tech. He ends up with James Franklin, who recruited him really hard when he was at Penn State before he committed to Michigan, so already had that long-standing relationship. But now I think obviously Penn State turns its attention to Will Wood. I do just kind of want to get your guys' take on everything though. Because I know a lot of people on Twitter have talked about Will Wood's the better quarterback anyway. Like Penn State wants Will Wood anyway. I do think Penn State once wanted Will Wood anyway, but I do think like obviously if they could have gotten Peter Bork on board, they would have really liked that. But I'm just gonna hand it off to you guys, just kind of like your take now that this is kind of all unfolding. Like if you think that this worked out for Penn State, if you think Peter Bork made the right decision, I don't know, whatever you guys are thinking, just lay it on me.
I I think I wouldn't say how a lot of people like on Twitter are saying that Will Wood is the better quarterback. I don't know if I would go that far yet, but I think Will Wood is the better fit for Penn State. All this stuff that's been happening with Peter Bork, it seems like whether it's actually him or other people around him trying to get all this attention towards him doesn't seem to be what like Matt Campbell wants in his players. He doesn't want these players getting a ton of attention like that, where he was at one point Ohio State was going after him, and then Georgia was a late addition as well, and it was kind of Virginia Tech and Georgia down the stretch where there has been very little talk about Will Wood and who's going after him and stuff like that. And it seems like Penn State is the front runner for Will Wood, and he has the intangibles almost like he's bigger than Trace McSorley, but his style is like Trace McSorley, and I think that is also kind of what's helping get Penn State fans excited for him and kind of boosting him even more to say that he is better than Peter Bork.
I certainly agree 100% with what Andrew was saying about the attention seeking that it seems like Bork is kind of giving off. I mean, if this was the James Franklin era at Penn State, I think it might have been a better fit. Those personalities definitely seem to align a little more, but like Andrew said, Matt Campbell is definitely that quieter kind of I don't want to say like behind the scenes guy, but he's definitely that more mellow guy, and that's certainly more Will Wood than Peter Bork is. I mean, all throughout high school, Wood's been pretty successful. So whether or not he commits to Penn State in the next couple of weeks, or I don't think he has a set decision date yet. But as soon as he commits, I definitely think Penn State will be looking for him to continue his success into Penn State and Happy Valley.
Yeah, I think I just like hard because I think Will like they like last week they sent like the house to Will Wood's house. If that
Mhm.
makes any sense. They sent Jake Waters and Taylor Mauser and a bunch of other coaches to Will Wood's house before Bork, long like a few days before Bork was deciding. And to me, that shows from just from that, seeing that like they wanted Will Wood. They still want Will Wood. And I think they're gonna get Will Wood, barring a push from some other school. But it was very clear, like Penn State, Matt Campbell talked a lot about how Taylor Mauser is good at finding these hidden gems. Talked about how he's the one who found Brock Purdy. Obviously, Brock Purdy has gone on to be very successful, and so I think this might be another thing where Taylor Mauser was like, "Look at this kid. Like Peter Bork is obviously he's been here. I said last week on the pod, like he has been to Penn State so many times. Like if he really wanted to be there, like he would have committed a while back. And so I just think that they kind of realized like, look, like there are other options out here, and it's like this kid is a proven winner. Like Will Wood just all he does is win pretty much. And I've seen that Trace McSorley comparison deal like you kind of talked about. I know 247 recently put out a scouting report for Wood as he's gotten, a little bit more attention in the recent weeks. And like most of it was just about how he like wins. Like like not a lot of it was like, oh, his throwing motion is like, so good. It's like no, he just like kind of like steps up when his team needs him. And I think that's what Penn State's kind of been missing in a quarterback. I don't want to say like Drew like didn't step up when his team needed him, but he definitely had moments where he did not step up when his team needed him. I mean, I think there were definitely times where he did, like the UCLA game. I thought he played really well, even though they didn't end up losing. Times like that. But I think Penn State is just looking for a guy. Like they need fans want to see a guy like Trace McSorley. Like that is the last time I think Penn State fans really felt confident in their quarterback. Like, hey, this guy can go win us this game. And it's like it was the last quarterback to beat Ohio State for Penn State. Like almost beat them again in 2017. And so it's like I think that's just what Penn State fans are looking for, and I think that's kind of what Will Wood is. With Peter Bork, I don't think his agent played his cards very well. I just think that this kind of spiraled out of control for him a little bit, I would say. I don't want to speculate, but obviously, like, you kind of look at Virginia Tech's quarterback situation, you're kind of like, well, why would any 2027 quarterback really want to, like, go there? It's like, it's just like, there's just so much going on. It's like you've got Ethan Grunkemeyer, Bryce Baker, and Troy Hume, all of which, like, fans in Blacksburg are really excited about. Obviously, Gronk is probably going to be the starter for the next 2 or 3 years, barring a transfer. But and then you've got Bryce Baker and Troy Hume like waiting behind him. And so it's like if you're Peter Bork, it's like I don't know. I just don't get it. Like if I'm a quarterback, I want the chance to play, and obviously Penn State has that chance. We talked about this a lot last week, but I do think that it's just interesting the way it ended up, especially with all the stuff that's been coming out about Drew Allar. Obviously, that's the last quarterback James Franklin and Danny O'Brien coached. He has started his rookie mini camp with the Steelers. I believe he got started last Saturday is when thing videos and stuff started surfacing and everything. I do want to say like that footwork video that's going around, he's obviously like taking it very slow on purpose. I think when I first saw it, I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, well, actually, like this is definitely just a drill. And then you kind of see the old videos of Aaron Rodgers doing very similar drills to what Drew Aller is doing right now. But then you also see, an ESPN reporter said that basically the Steelers are uninstalling everything Drew Aller knows about playing quarterback and giving him their own kind of take on it. And I don't think that looks good for James Franklin and Danny O'Brien. I'll hand it off to you guys. Like, what do you think that kind of says about Penn State's previous coaching staff? What do you think it says about Drew? Like, do you think this is just like your average like rookie quarterback needs some fixing? Like, what do you guys kind of take away from all that?
I
There,
mean, Drew definitely had I just the physicality, the throwing, and he definitely had for various aspects needed to succeed. Obviously he didn't get it done. And so I think that that fresh reset is good for Drew. I mean, obviously, similar things happened to Aaron Rodgers when he joined Mike McCarthy many years ago. And look where Aaron Rodgers is now. So n now seeing Drew kind of going through that and possibly replacing Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers. But we're still waiting to hear whether or not Aaron Rodgers will come back for another year. But I mean, there's a chance potentially that Drew could start or at least see the field for the Steelers this year. So just kind of going through this reset. Drew's taking it, I guess, just day by day, seeing whatever they throw at him. During the rookie mini camp, he was the only quarterback there, so he took all the snaps. I believe it was like 35 snaps, 35 drills they ran through, and people were saying that he was gassed by the end of it, but I think it's a new era of Drew Aller, a new to just revamp, hit the reset button. And they're kind of just going full steam ahead with him, trying to see, I guess, what comes out at the end.
I found it f almost funny that they were kind of the way everything was worded. It was like he's a robot. Like they're uninstalling what he had and then reinstalling this new stuff. But if I'm Peter Bork, after hearing that, I don't get how you then choose Virginia Tech. Like that part doesn't make sense to me because you have this big-bodied quarterback, NFL, like a ton of NFL intangibles with Drew Allar, and they're uninstalling everything he learned at Penn State. And now you have that Penn State coaching staff at Virginia Tech, and you choose to go there. That's what kind of didn't make sense to me. Um, but I think this is ultimately good for Drew Allar. Obviously, the stuff that came out earlier, even before the draft, where he had already said that he was working on his footwork. I think that shows that he knows what his weaknesses are and that he wants to fix it and be an NFL quarterback. And there's an opportunity for him, like Noah said, that Aaron Rodgers, there's been no contact seemingly with Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, where it's now basically, as of right now, it's Drew Allar and Will Howard fighting it out. Now there is still Mason Rudolph as well. Um, I would see like if Rodgers doesn't sign, I would think Rudolph would be the starter because he has that experience. Um, but they are molding Drew Allar into the quarterback they want him to be, or that they want with the Steelers. And I think that is a big sign that they have belief in Drew and what he already has, and then they can fix what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, I think honestly Mike McCarthy loved Drew Allar so much during the draft process because like he was a project. Like I don't think obviously you want like the polished quarterback that you know is NFL ready, but I think Mike McCarthy also likes the fact that like he can kind of make Drew not really whoever he wants him to be, but like he can really get his, gets working, like get this quarterback to be like kind of who he wants to fit his system. And so I think that's the reason why he was so high on Drew during the draft. And I think any like proven quarterback, develop any proven coach who's been good at developing quarterbacks is gonna kind of want to take on that project. I definitely think Drew Allar was the best project in the NFL draft. I mean, his arm talent, obviously, we've talked about all the time, incredible arm talent. Um, but with Penn State, I do think it's very interesting because like I just don't understand like obviously everyone knows his footwork was bad and it's like I don't think it's like something that ever improved at Penn State. So I don't understand it's like he knows his footwork is bad. Like everyone knew his footwork was bad. It's like why was his footwork never getting better? And so that's where I think it translates back on the coaching staff. It translates back on Danny O'Brien because it's like Danny O'Brien's the quarterback's coach. Like obviously Drew was a very good quarterback. I think there was definitely some I don't want to say there was definitely some like take the hands off and just kind of let him be Drew, but I definitely think there was some like we're not gonna like be like super meticulous and like whatever because obviously he was super talented. They knew that. Like he committed there, like he was their highest quarterback recruit ever. In the Franklin era, obviously Hackenberg came in as Penn State's highest quarterback recruit ever and still is. But then you kind of look at how Hackenberg panned out as well under Franklin, and it's like kind of what happened there as well. But I think Drew is just the most recent example of it. And I think Drew is being obviously Hackenberg went to the Jets. It's not really a place where he's gonna um, have a career and really, improve as an NFL quarterback. Whereas Drew gets to end up with the Steelers and Mike McCarthy. So I think definitely a better situation there. But I do just think it does reflect poorly on Penn State. But I do think that it is some of like being a rookie quarterback. Obviously, a lot of guys come out of college and like there's things you have to fix. Like Fernando Mendoza is learning how to play under center, and it's like that's just something he has to adapt to. And it's like Drew Aller has to do the same thing. And so, but I think the degree to which Drew Aller is quote unquote being fixed is definitely not a good look for James Franklin or Danny O'Brien, especially Danny O'Brien, I would say. I just, I don't know. It's something where. I don't really think Danny O'Brien is, I don't want to say a good quarterbacks coach because that feels mean, but I just don't really think that he really did a good job in developing Drew. And I think that, I don't think Drew came out of high school like ready to be, like he was definitely ready to be a Big Ten quarterback, but he can't just like, it's not like Gavin McKenna where you can just be like, okay, Gavin McKenna, like we know you're going to be the number one pick in the NHL draft. Like just go, just do your thing. Like we don't need to fix you. I don't think Drew Aller was like that. Like Drew Aller needed coaching. It doesn't seem like he ever got the full like preparation to be ready for the NFL. Like he is not NFL ready. Everyone knew that. And I think even after 4 years in college, like he should have been. I know like he was injured in his last year, but like he played 16 games his junior year. That was obviously his best season. And like his sophomore year, that game against West Virginia, everyone was like that's who Drew Allar can be. And it's like Penn State never got to unlock that out of him, whether that was Drew's fault, the coaching staff's fault. Like we'll find out, when he plays in the NFL, which whose fault it really is. But right now it's looking bad on Penn State. It's looking not on Penn State now, but it's looking bad on James Franklin and Danny O'Brien and who he played under at Penn State. We can also talk, we can talk about how he had never had any weapon besides Tyler Warren. Like there's just like there were so many different things that went into Drew's career at Penn State where it didn't really pan out the way many thought it would. But I do think the fact that everything is being uninstalled is like I don't know, it says a lot. It definitely does. And I also think the way Drew's kind of gone about it also says a lot. You can read more about, what he kind of said at rookie minicamp under at psucollegian.com under the football tab. Our friend Andrew Mercer wrote about it. But yeah, he seems to be really taking this challenge head on. I think he's really excited to learn from Mike McCarthy. But I do think it's just like Danny O'Brien, what are we doing, man? It's like, and so that's why I don't understand Peter Board going to Virginia Tech right now, especially. Like if it was like a month ago and like none of this had came out about the Steelers and Drew kind of working through all this, I like it would make more sense to me. But it's like even so, like James Franklin has never really like developed a quarterback. Like I think Trace McSorley was who he was. I think Sean Clifford also was who he was. I don't really think Sean Clifford needed to be developed. He just kind of like was Sean Clifford. Like I don't really know how to explain it, but he was just like your average like college quarterback. Like whereas like Drew actually was supposed to be like a game changer, like a playmaker, and like that just never really panned out. So
And I think part of that ties in with what Terry Smith was saying a few weeks ago when he was saying how the system wasn't really set up for Drew. I mean, like you said, Drew started for to 3 years and they had 3 years to create a system around Drew, whether that was bringing in targets from the transfer portal. He went through two offensive coordinators, and they just never were able to unlock him. And as Terry said, that's kind of due to that was kind of due to the system. It wasn't it wasn't. I don't want to say it wasn't Drew's fault because yeah, he had his fair share of mistakes throughout his career, but I mean the system that was set up around him never really allowed him to flourish. They never gave him targets, as you said, and even through two offensive coordinators. I mean. The West Virginia game, his sophomore year, you said that was Mike Urick, and then Andy Totonucci came along and things kind of went even more downhill. So he just never had what he needed to succeed.
Yeah, and it seemed like they were trying to mold him into more of a running quarterback as well, where he became faster throughout his time. We saw that with Sean Clifford as well, that the narrative was he was slow and then all of a sudden he was faster. And anytime he ran the ball, they would mention his 40 time or that he really improved on his 40 time. And it was the same with Drew, where he's this like gunslinger, and that's not the offense that they had around him to for him to succeed. They made him more of a dual threat quarterback than what he really should have been.
yeah, I also think it's just hard because like obviously Penn State's always been like run first and like obviously with Nick Singleton and Tortora on the backfield, like you're not expecting them to throw on first down like ever. Like that's just like not gonna happen. But also when your running game is that good, like it should unlock the passing game. Like it should be like a very balanced, like especially when you have a quarterback like Drew Allar that like everyone knows can throw. Like you have to respect that. And it also opens up the running game. Like, but just like none of that ever like meshed together. And like whether that I don't think you can put that all on Drew, like in any way, shape, or form. I think that some of it does fall back on the coaching staff. And it's also like you can't, say over and over that like Drew is so talented, doing so well in practice, like all this, and it's just like, well, like what happened? It's like obviously like it just wasn't the career he was supposed to have, and it's like obviously I think his junior year, when they went to the college football playoff semifinals, like that was a really good year for Drew. Obviously, it ended on that horrific note, and that's all people kind of think about when they look back at that year. But I do think it was still a really, really good year for Drew, and I think like there was a reason he was supposed to be a first round pick after that year. It's like, and then it just kind of like all kind of, fell apart. But it's just one of those things where it's like something was always off. It's like he always had like a few good games here and there, like the West Virginia game is sophomore year, the West Virginia game is junior year. It's like he's always flashed and it just never really was put all together. And so I think the biggest thing is that Mike McCarthy is just trying to put it all together. And I also think that he's starting with the fact that like some of this like needs to start from scratch. And so I just think that's kind of what the Steelers are trying to do with Drew. Will it work? Like I think Drew is very smart when it comes to football. I also think he cares very much about learning everything there is about football. Like this guy is a football junkie. Like I can say from speaking with him, like he just loves football. He loves playing football. He loves learning football. He loves talking football. Like even during the draft process, he said like his favorite thing about the interviews was just talking football with all these coaches. And so I think that he's, the perfect guy to kind of like really absorb what Mike McCarthy wants to teach him. But obviously we'll see if it pans out. We'll see if he's a starting quarterback week one. I definitely think there's a chance. I think a lot of that depends on Aaron Rodgers, obviously all that stuff where he was supposed to meet with the Steelers and then, oh, just kidding, he never met with the Steelers. Like, who really knows what's going on? So obviously it's May. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't really have a ton of time to figure that out. But I do think Drew definitely has a shot at being the starting quarterback. Do I think, it's best this year for him to be the starting quarterback? Like, maybe not. Maybe he needs some time to kind of really like learn what McCarthy is trying to install with him. But I do think it's a possibility. And like people could be surprised, people could be disappointed. Like we won't know. We'll find out, obviously, but I do think it's not the best look for James Franklin and company with everything that's coming out about Drew. So yeah, but we can kind of just end it there. That's all we've kind of got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can find us at collegian.com for more content. You can follow us on socials. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter for content curated to your inbox every Friday. But we'll see you next time.